Hi, this is Danai, and today's video is another career video. Today we'll be talking about piano competitions and how important or not important they are to our career as a pianist. Competitions are a whole mysterious world of their own, and I've recently been getting a couple of questions about my take on competitions, how important I find them, if I think that they are necessary in order to start a career as a musician. So if you're interested in all these questions, then definitely keep on watching. I want to start by saying that there is no right or wrong way with competitions. I know pianists that have won a competition and that have had great careers coming from that. I also know pianists that have incredible careers without ever having entered a competition. And I also know pianists that have won a lot of competitions and that actually haven't had a great career. So anything is possible with competitions. It's not a black and white thing at all. And it really is also a personal choice whether you want to go down that path or not. But one thing is for sure, it can be a great tool to increase your visibility and to further your career as a concert pianist. So let me dive right into the most important question, and that is, should I enter a piano competition? Now keep in mind, I'm talking about the big international piano competitions right now. Chopin competition, Tchaikovsky competition, all these very big ones that have multiple rounds. You have to have a lot of repertoire prepared. There is a lot of stress and pressure surrounding them. I am not talking about the smaller youth competitions. That is something completely different that I'm going to touch on in a minute. But should you enter this big competition? I would say that it definitely helps to enter a competition if you have the right attitude. In my opinion, when you enter a competition, you shouldn't go there thinking only about winning it, because who wins the competition is not necessarily the best pianist. I know this is a little bit controversial and I might get some backlash for saying that, but it is hard to define who the best pianist is. Anyway, it's not like a sport where who jumps the highest is clearly the best or who runs the fastest is clearly the best. Playing the piano is an art form, and it is very hard to objectively say this is clearly the best pianist out of 100. So this is anyway something that is not measurable and therefore very hard to judge. But even if you could judge it, I would argue that it is not always the best pianist that wins a competition. And sometimes unfair things happen. There are some things happening in the background that might make the decision unfair. And also, even if everything is fair, to me, the person who usually wins the competition is what I would call the least offensive player. And I don't mean that in any negative way to any big competition winner. I have the greatest respect for every big competition winner. It is an incredible accomplishment to win a big competition. The work that goes into the preparation and the stamina and the self-confidence that you must have when you go on stage is enormous. So I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. But usually when you're in a competition and have to please 15 people on a jury, the least offensive player will win. And what I mean by that is the player that basically does everything right. No wrong notes, preferably. Nothing too extreme, nothing too risky. If you go there with an interpretation that is so personal, and some people might love it and some people might hate it, you are probably not going to win. If you go there with an interpretation that almost anyone can agree with because you're simply not doing anything wrong, anything too extreme, then you have higher chances of winning the competition because you're not offending anybody. This is why competition winners very often are the most perfect players and not necessarily the most personal players. Of course, now this is a big generalization and this is not always the case, but I want to just back this up with a little famous story that you might have already heard of. In the 80s, it was the Chopin competition and the now famous pianist Ivo Pogorelic was a candidate. And he was in the semifinals. On the jury, amongst others, was the also very famous pianist Mata Agerich. And she was on the jury. She was very much pro Pogorelic because he must have had a very unique approach to the pieces, not the least offensive one, but a very personal, unique, and to her, very impressive approach that she loved. He did not make it to the finals because more jury members voted him out of the finals than into the finals. And that resulted in a huge scandal because she said that she will not stay on this jury if this incredible talent doesn't make it into the finals, and she left the jury. Ivo Pogorelic, of course, made a career nonetheless. So this is just an example, regardless whether you like Pogorelic's or Agerich's playing or not, of what can happen in a competition. I think this story is very interesting and really reflects what happens in competitions very well. Now, after this little criticism that I made concerning competitions, should you enter a competition or should this stop you from entering a competition? It should absolutely not stop you, of course. If you're someone who doesn't have a lot of concerts yet and is looking for opportunities to perform in front of an audience and to be seen and to increase your visibility, obviously you should enter a competition. It is a great goal to work towards. It is going to increase your motivation by a lot. It is such a great incentive, and being on stage and being heard by all these very important people of the music industry who are on the jury or sitting in the audience is very, very valuable. Even if you don't win it, even if you don't make it to the finals, if you make it to a certain point, you're going to get a lot of visibility. There might be streaming. So I would definitely say, if you are looking for that, enter the competition. Just don't enter with a mindset of, if I don't win, it means that I failed. It does not mean that. Most people that enter the competition and are great, talented musicians don't win. So don't think that a loss is a failure. I could name countless names of successful musicians right now that have entered competitions and that have failed, that haven't even gotten past the first round. Often the competition winners are people that have already entered a lot of competitions and have not passed the first or second round in the first 5 competitions, and then in the 6th competition they make it to the finals and win the first prize. So please don't take it to your heart and don't see it as something negative if you don't win or don't make it as far as you had hoped. See the competition as an opportunity to increase your network and especially to prepare. It is such a big difference if you're preparing with a goal in your mind, and a competition is such a big goal. You have to prepare such a big chunk of repertoire, so it is really going to challenge you, and I would say it's definitely going to improve your playing because you're going to look towards perfecting those pieces that you're entering with. So this is a very positive side effect of a competition, that it is going to give you motivation. It is going to force you to perfect a very large amount of repertoire at the same time. As I mentioned before, even if you get kicked out in the first round, there are important people for you listening to those competitions. There are agents, there are journalists, there are conductors, there are other musicians, there are professors, potential teachers. All these people are listening to competitions. So if you are there, meet them, make sure that they see your performance if you're happy with it, and use that opportunity to your advantage. As I mentioned in the beginning, the effect that a competition can have on your career can differ a lot from person to person. I also think that we live in a time where this has shifted a little bit compared to, let's say, 20, 30, 40 years ago. I think back then, when you won a competition, it really was the beginning of a career. All those big names that we know now, that now belong to the great pianists, usually did win first or second prize at a big competition. But now the times have changed. There are so many more people playing the piano and entering competitions. There are so many more competitions, so that when there is a first prize winner, it is not as big of an event as it was back then, and there is a new prize winner coming every year. So it's not necessary that this is the beginning of your career. However, it can definitely jumpstart your career. When you win the first prize, you get a set of concerts. Even when you win second or third prize, you get tours, you get to play in recitals and piano concertos that you would not have gotten otherwise. So for sure it can help you, and you can turn all these opportunities into new contacts and to increase your network. So it definitely can jumpstart your career. And also today, of course, there are first prize winners that then suddenly get propelled into an international career. But I would say that the times have changed a little bit, and it is not as foolproof a method as it was 20 or 30 years ago. I also want to stress that it is not necessary to win a big competition in order to start a great career as a pianist. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are countless pianists that have not won a big prize in a competition and that have a great career, because our times have changed a little bit and there are many different ways for you to start your career as a pianist. So keep in mind that if you're someone who just shivers at the sound of competitions and just really can't handle that, it is not the end of the world. There are other ways that you can start your career and be very successful with what you do. As I promised in the beginning, I also wanted to talk a little bit about youth competitions. This is, of course, a whole different climate. It is not this whole big international thing with all the pressure. Youth competitions usually have multiple first prizes and different age categories. So this is very different, and this is also something that I would definitely recommend to young people to enter. I myself entered so many youth competitions when I was young, and every time it was a great experience for me to prepare, to be motivated, to withstand the pressure, to get used to the whole performance and to the whole performing atmosphere. So I would say when you are young, entering competitions in your age category is something very valuable and something that I would recommend, especially when you are at a young age where you are really not playing regular concerts yet. Sometimes the competitions are your main performing event of the year. So I would definitely say don't miss out on that. In general, I would wrap this video up by saying that competitions can be a very valuable experience when approached with the right attitude. See them as an opportunity. If you win, that's amazing. If you don't win, it doesn't matter and nobody cares about it. And just enter the next one or play the next concert and don't be discouraged by it. Prepare well, practice well, be motivated, get to know many great, interesting, valuable people, and all these things will definitely help you in your career. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts on competitions. This is a subject where the opinions go into a lot of different directions, so I am very well aware that some of you might think very differently. I discussed this with my friends a lot as well, and as I said, I have friends that have done them a lot, I have friends that haven't done them at all. So let me know if you have entered, what your experience has been, if you think that they are important or not. I will be very interested to read your comments, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!